The sky was painted with deep hues of navy and violet, a clear indication of the late hour. Marcus Caldwell's car rolled quietly into the driveway of his newly purchased home in Oak Ridge Estates, an upscale neighborhood where sprawling lawns and pristine facades masked the unease that often simmered beneath such exclusivity. Dressed in a plain hoodie and jeans, Marcus stepped out, carrying a set of rolled blueprints under one arm and his laptop bag slung over his shoulder. The house, though beautiful, needed renovations, and he planned to review some designs before finally calling it a night. From across the street, Abigail Hayes squinted through her blinds. Her evening routine, Netflix and a glass of Chardonnay, was interrupted by the sight of an unfamiliar black man walking up to the door of the Johnsons' old place. "Who is he, and what's he doing here?" she muttered to herself. Her assumptions spiraled. Abigail wasn't new to this neighborhood. She considered herself the unofficial guardian of the cul-de-sac, always keeping an eye out for anything or anyone out of place. Her gaze sharpened. The man was fiddling with a set of keys. Without hesitating, she grabbed her phone and dialed 911. "Yes, there's a suspicious man trying to break into a house on Pinewood Lane. I think he's a burglar," she whispered dramatically into the receiver, her voice tinged with urgency. Minutes later, flashing red and blue lights cast eerie reflections against Marcus's car. Two officers stepped out, their hands resting on their holstered weapons. Marcus, startled by the sudden commotion, turned toward them as one officer barked, "Sir, step away from the door and keep your hands where we can see them." Marcus raised his hands, his blueprint slipping to the ground. "Officers, there must be some misunderstanding. This is my house." The officers exchanged skeptical glances. One reached for his radio, while the other approached Marcus cautiously. "Do you have ID?" Marcus nodded calmly, maintaining eye contact. "Of course. My wallet's in my pocket. May I reach for it?" The officer nodded, and Marcus slowly retrieved his wallet, handing over his ID and the deed to the property, which he had conveniently left in his bag after a recent meeting with contractors. The tension began to ease as the officers examined the documents. "Mr. Caldwell, it appears everything checks out. Sorry for the inconvenience. We were responding to a call." Abigail stood frozen behind her window, watching as the officers exchanged sheepish apologies and drove off. Despite the proof, she remained suspicious, muttering under her breath, "He must have sweet-talked them." Probably a scam artist. Marcus, unaware of his neighbor's lingering doubts, picked up his blueprints and sighed deeply. Moments like these weren't new to him, but they were always disheartening. "Another day, another assumption," he whispered before stepping into his house. The sleek, modern office building of Caldwell Innovations hummed with activity the next morning. Employees bustled through the open floor plan, their voices blending into a symphony of productivity. In the heart of it all was Marcus's corner office, a glass-walled sanctuary that overlooked the city skyline. Marcus entered the building with his usual quiet confidence, greeting employees as he made his way to the elevator. The previous night's incident lingered in his mind, but he compartmentalized his frustration. Today's meeting was important, a company-wide announcement about new leadership initiatives and inclusivity measures he'd been planning for months. Abigail Hayes, seated at her desk in the marketing department, sipped her coffee absent-mindedly. She was scrolling through emails when an alert popped up, all hands meeting in conference room 1 at 10 a.m. As the room filled with employees, Marcus stood at the head of the table, his posture relaxed but commanding. Abigail entered, taking a seat in the back, her eyes widening when she recognized him. "This can't be," she murmured, her heartbeat quickening. Marcus began speaking, his deep voice resonating with warmth and determination. "Good morning, everyone. As many of you know, our company has grown significantly over the past few years. But with growth comes responsibility, not just to our shareholders, but to each other and the communities we serve." He outlined his vision for the company's future: innovation driven by empathy, inclusivity, and collaboration. As he spoke, Abigail's mind raced. "He's my boss?" The realization sent a wave of dread through her. When the meeting ended, Abigail slipped out quickly, avoiding eye contact with Marcus. But Marcus noticed her. Later, in his office, he turned to his assistant, Vanessa. "Vanessa, Could you find out which department Abigail Hayes works in? Vanessa raised an eyebrow. Is there a specific reason? Marcus leaned back in his chair, a wry smile playing on his lips. Let's just say I had an interesting encounter with her last night. 2 days later, Marcus sent Abigail an email requesting a meeting in his office. Abigail felt a sinking sensation in her chest as she read the message. She knew she had to face him, but the thought of admitting her actions made her palms sweat. When she stepped into his office, Marcus greeted her with a calm but firm expression. Abigail, please have a seat, he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Abigail perched nervously, clasping her hands in her lap. Do you remember me? Marcus asked, his tone neutral. Abigail hesitated, then nodded. I think so. Marcus leaned forward. You called the police on me the other night. Her face flushed. I didn't realize it was you. You thought I didn't belong there, Marcus interrupted, his voice steady but pointed. Why? Abigail stammered. I just thought it was late and you seemed suspicious. I was trying to protect the neighborhood. Protect it from me? Marcus's question hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Abigail lowered her gaze, unable to respond. I'm not here to shame you, Abigail, Marcus continued, but your actions have consequences. They reflect not only on you, but on this company. How can I expect you to represent Caldwell Innovations if you make assumptions like that? Abigail's eyes welled with tears. I'm sorry, I really am. It wasn't personal. Marcus tilted his head, scrutinizing her. It's always personal when someone's dignity is on the line, but I believe in second chances. He handed her a folder. This is a list of diversity training programs and community service initiatives. You'll be participating in both. Consider it an opportunity to learn and grow. Abigail nodded hesitantly, the weight of the situation sinking in. Weeks passed, and Abigail begrudgingly attended the programs Marcus had assigned her to. While she learned valuable lessons about bias and privilege, she couldn't shake her resentment. One evening, after a particularly grueling community service shift, she vented on social media. Some people just can't take a joke. Overreaction is the name of the game these days, she posted, careful not to name Marcus directly. But the internet doesn't keep secrets. The post gained traction, with commenters connecting the dots. Marcus's phone buzzed with alerts the next morning. When he saw the post, he sighed, disappointment flickering across his face. By midday, the story had gone viral. Marcus called an emergency meeting, addressing the company with transparency and resolve. Bias, whether intentional or not, has no place in our society, he said, his voice filled with conviction. As a company, we must hold ourselves accountable, starting from the top down. Abigail resigned shortly after, unable to face the mounting backlash. Her position was filled by a young, talented woman who embodied the values Marcus sought to instill in the company. In the weeks that followed, Marcus launched a new initiative aimed at fostering inclusivity and combating systemic bias. The program became a model for other companies, proving that moments of adversity could indeed spark meaningful change. As Marcus stood before a group of young entrepreneurs at a conference, he concluded his speech with a powerful message. Leadership isn't about punishing mistakes. It's about creating opportunities for growth. But growth only happens when we confront our biases head-on and commit to doing better. The audience erupted in applause, inspired by Marcus's story, a testament to the power of resilience, accountability, and the relentless pursuit of progress. Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey of reflection, accountability, and redemption. Marcus's story reminds us of the importance of addressing prejudice head-on and the strength it takes to turn confrontation into opportunity. Stories like this challenge us to look inward, push for change, and work toward a more inclusive world. If this story resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let us know what stood out to you the most. And don't forget to tell us where you're listening from. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell so you'll never miss another story that inspires and challenges you. Thank you for being part of the Hopeful Horizon community. Until next time, stay hopeful, stay kind, and remember, The power to change the world starts with us.